I made a video on this channel about something you should do every time, whether you're selling your laptop or not, never will or might in the future. You need to do this one thing. It's something I've been doing for years, but some of you still had some questions in the comments, while a few others of you left some misinformation. So I wanted to take this video to clear some of those things up. Questions like, will this work for my MacBook Air? And comments like, this will destroy your laptop's hinge. So let's talk about it. You asked, and these are my answers. Hi everybody, foXnoMad here, and today I want to help you travel smarter by showing you how you can protect your MacBook and laptop screens by using a simple microfiber cloth. In my original video, which I'll link to in the description below, I talked about how a sufficiently thin microfiber cloth can protect your screen and increase the resale value of your MacBook. By placing a microfiber cloth on your keyboard and then closing your laptop lid when you need to, you put a barrier between the natural oils and grease from your fingers, which gets all over the keys with normal use, and your screen. This is important because over time, those skin oils can break down the natural protective coating of a laptop screen, leaving it with discoloration and distortion that can only be fixed with an expensive screen replacement. This process is known as delamination. And there are a lot of other benefits of putting a microfiber cloth over your keyboard before you close your laptop lid, which you should check out in my original video. Keep in mind though, you want to use a microfiber cloth that is sufficiently thin, and if you're looking for one, I'll leave a link to one down in the description which you can pick up. Still though, some of you had some questions like, will this destroy my MacBook's hinge? Is this okay for the MacBook Air? So here's the truth. In short, no. Placing a microfiber cloth over your keyboard will not damage your laptop hinge if the microfiber is a thin one. You don't want to use a thicker microfiber cloth because that may not allow the laptop lid to close completely. Thin microfiber cloths work because laptops, even the MacBook Air, are designed to have some space between the keyboard and the screen when you close the lid. It's a very tiny space, but it is there. And that's partially what the rubber rim around the MacBook screen is for, is to create that separation. The problem is most of us pack our laptops into bags and backpacks where there's added pressure on the screen, pressing it down onto the keyboard. Since the center of the screen is furthest away from the edges where the extra space rubber separators are that go around the screen, the center is where you get the most bend in toward the keyboard, and it's most likely where the screen is going to start showing signs of screen damage like it did on my old MacBook. A microfiber that's thin enough shouldn't affect the hinge because the microfiber cloth is occupying the tiny space between the keys and the screen when the lid is closed. In other words, the laptop is closing normally. You can try it on your own laptop and see if the lid closes properly. What you want to do is put your microfiber over there and then close the lid. And make sure that the rubber bumper all around the edges completely sits flat, that it's not sitting up, that it's just completely flat, there's no sort of movement. And that's how you know the microfiber cloth is thin enough and it is sitting between the gap between your screen and your keyboard. Another thing to note is that when you have the keys and the screen, the keys are meant to be pushed down, so if there is a little bit of space to give there, it's going to go down into the keyboard rather than pushing up into the screen. The microfiber cloth also compresses just a little bit, so using that little bit of space that's between the screen and the keys can get pushed down, the microfiber cloth can compress. As long as the laptop is closing all the way and the microfiber cloth is thin enough, it's not going to affect the hinge of your MacBook, even if it's as thin as a MacBook Air. It's the reason I don't recommend using a plastic cover over the keys, which some of you asked about. It's because those are thicker and they don't have as much give when it comes to like just a regular microfiber. It's going to push more and affect the hinge more, especially on something as thin as the MacBook Air. So that's why I recommend that you use a microfiber cloth. They're a lot thinner, they're a lot softer, they compress down a lot easier than a plastic rubber cover that's thicker and it's going to sit over the top of your keyboard. Keyboard covers, the kind you use to cover the entire surface of your laptop keyboard and maybe the trackpad as well, are thick. These can over time damage a laptop hinge or soften the springs in a way that makes the screen loose, both when you're using the screen and when the laptop lid is closed. It's also for this reason, particularly on MacBooks, because they have an especially tiny screen keyboard gap, that I don't recommend using a screen cover. There are privacy screens you can flip up and over, so only used when the laptop is actually open. You can use those, but leaving the screen cover on when closing the lid could potentially harm the hinge. Keyboard covers also have a tendency to pick up grease, which is normal for anything that you touch, and that grease can get transferred from the keyboard cover to the screen a lot easier than it can from a microfiber cloth. And if you have a keyboard cover and it's got all that finger grease on it, it's going to cause the delamination problem by transferring the grease from the keyboard cover to your screen. The keyboard cover is just protecting the keys. It's not protecting the screen. And the microfiber cloth, the reason we put it over top the keyboard is to protect the screen. That's the reason we do it in the first place. And screen covers are just really difficult to put on. Just try doing it without getting any bubbles or dust in there. I mean, it's hard enough on phones. And screen covers add another barrier between the pixels you're viewing and your eyeballs, and they might reduce, even just a tiny bit, the overall resolution. A humble microfiber cloth solves all of these issues. It's part of the reason Apple puts a thin piece of paper on the keyboard when they ship you a new laptop. It helps protect the screen. Some of you mentioned you still use that same piece of paper, and good on you if you can keep it and maintain it and have it just hold up over many years, but it is kind of a temporary solution, and there are a few more advantages to using just a soft, thin microfiber cloth, and they're not too expensive to begin with. Overall, the goal is to keep finger and food grease from your keyboard, and if you eat over your laptop, you really must be living life on the edge, but either way, getting that finger or food grease or whatever from the keyboard to the screen, the microfiber is there really to keep that barrier, because the finger grease, the food grease, all that can cause delamination of the screen over time. And because grease is our enemy in this scenario, you should also consider cleaning your keyboard about once a week using a proper cleaning solution. I'll link to one that's very good down in the description. You can use that. Just wipe down the keyboard and keys once a week, and that'll help reduce the amount of grease that accumulates on the keyboard. Regular cleaning and a thin microfiber cloth are simple solutions to the problem of screen delamination, which is an expensive fix. And using a microfiber cloth on your keyboard is especially important if you have a tendency to put your laptop or MacBook in a backpack often. If you travel often, that's going to create even more compression, and that's where the microfiber cloth comes in handy, because it also creates a little bit of separation, especially when you're just crushing your MacBook in the back of a laptop. You know who you are. Because screens are sensitive and expensive and rather important parts of a laptop. So if you want yours to last a long time and be very clear without any blurry areas, make sure you use one of these, which will also help your resale value when you go to buy a new laptop. If you've gotten this far in the video, I highly recommend that you check out my earlier video. There's a lot of advice that's going to really help you, especially if you have a MacBook or MacBook Air. I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. I recommend that you check it out if you really want to extend the life of your expensive laptop or MacBook. If you have any other questions though about this particular video, let me know down in the comments below. And while you're down there, hit the like and subscribe buttons. I'll have new videos for you every week, and I'll see you in the next video.